And then the biggest secret is...
I got that on camera.
Hi and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and I have another author conversation for you from San Diego Comic-Con. It was so much fun to get to talk to Delilah S. Dawson. She is putting out 4 books this year, including a Star Wars book and Midnight at the Houdini, which is a really fun story that I am very excited for you guys to check out. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Delilah S. Dawson.
Hello.
Hello.
So this is not your first Comic-Con of the year. You've been busy with the Comic-Cons. What's it like getting to be out with the fans like this?
It's my favorite thing in the whole world. Don't tell my kids I said that, but yeah, it's just so nice to not only be among the fans and to be with all the energy, but to also see like my editors and the people that work at my publishers and the writer friends that I make. This is kind of like our family reunion, so I get really excited. It's very well refilling.
Outside of like meeting people, what's your favorite part of conventions?
Adventures. I got here on a Wednesday and I didn't have anything until 2:00 on Thursday. So I was like Googling fun things to do in San Diego, and I ended up snorkeling with leopard sharks in La Jolla. And that was super cool. They're about like 5 feet long, and they can't eat you, and they don't really want to. They're scared of you, but you can just swim, and then there's like 30 of them kind of swirling around you, and then there's guitar fish, and that has nothing to do with Comic-Con, but I love having adventures. And also the food is really good around here. I've had so many good tacos recently, and really nice cocktails, and it just, it's an escape, and San Diego is beautiful in particular.
So you're not on the convention diet of where you forget to eat everything?
I never forget to eat, but I'm averaging like 16,000 steps a day, and I worked out twice, and I'm going to work out again today, so like I'm putting it in.
Yeah, there we go. So the book that you're promoting right now is a Star Wars book. What
Yes.
can you tell us about this brand new book baby of yours?
Yes, this is Star Wars Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade, because I'm just trying to write increasingly longer Star Wars books, I guess. But this book is set during the Clone Wars, and the premise is that we're going to follow a young, earnest, good-hearted Jedi Padawan teenager through the Clone Wars and becoming kind of jaded with the Jedi Order and, feeling profoundly othered in this kind of strange sect of people that were meant to be monks and were not meant to be war generals during, a crucible of this horrible war where kind of children are thrown into the meat grinder of not really knowing what to do, despite the fact that they're all basically wizards. And she, as many Jedi have, kind of falls to the dark side, and we get to watch her become an Inquisitor to the point where she is actively choosing to hunt Jedi.
Where in the context of the timeline does this book fit?
This is firmly Clone Wars, so if you have never read a Star Wars book in your entire life, but you have seen either the prequel movies, or you've seen the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, or you've watched any of the Clone Wars, you should be totally chill with it. I want my books to be like open doors to Star Wars. They are not gates. You will be totally at home and know what's going on, because it's a very kind of character development story as compared to like politics or diplomacy. It's about this character very specifically and showing a new way that a Jedi falls to the dark side.
How did you get involved with writing for Star Wars?
Well, I didn't start writing books till I was 31, and kind of ramped up into that in traditional publishing and made friends. And my friend Chuck Wendig said, I want to write a Star Wars novel. And within a year, he had published Aftermath. So I was like on Twitter, okay, I want to publish a Star Wars novel. And they did not come knock on my door like that. But I had my agents send books to the Star Wars editors. I asked my friends Chuck, Kevin Hearn, Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, people who had written for Star Wars, to kind of put in a good word for me. I met them at different cons and, told them, hello, I'm very, very desperate and I love this more than life. Please hire me. And so I got to write a novella called The Perfect Weapon that was associated with The Force Awakens that follows a bounty hunter named Bazine Natal that we only see her once in The Force Awakens. She's the beautiful woman in black and white in Maz Kanata's castle who, tells the bad guys that the good guys are here. And since then I've gotten to write more, and it's so much fun because Star Wars is my life and I love my Star Wars editors and the other Star Wars writers, so it is just such a privilege.
What's the best part of working with Lucasfilm and getting to write these Star Wars books?
I'm really addicted to first drafting. Like, I love that feeling of being in the middle of writing, But insofar as like unique things go, because I wrote Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Black Spire, which is an unofficial sequel to my book Phasma. It follows the spy Vi Marati as she goes to Galaxy's Edge, which, as we know, is the park in Disney World and Disneyland. So I got to know about that in advance, and then I got invited to both sides of the country for the grand openings. So the grand opening in Hollywood, Harrison Ford was there, and Mark Hamill was there. It was crazy. And then the one on the East Coast in Disney World, I got to be there with Zoraida Cordova and Ethan Sachs and Will Sliney, who wrote some of the other Galaxy's Edge works. And we got to do signings, and we got to do like a presentation in the Club 33 movie theater, and it was just this once-in-a-lifetime thing. And then I got to meet Vi Marati. The character I created is like walking around Disney World and Disneyland, and you can just walk up and meet her. It's like she's my Snuffleupagus, and she's real. So it's all really good all the time.
But Star Wars isn't the only fandom you get to write for. You've done stuff with Marvel and Disney and Rick and Morty and X-Files. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite of
Whichever
them?
one I'm currently writing is my favorite. I get really excited about all this. I'm a huge Disney file. When I lived in Florida, I was a World file, had my season pass and everything. Labyrinth, Adventure Time, Rick and Morty, X-Files, yeah, all of this I feel like for the vast majority of IP, it's really hard to write in other people's intellectual worlds unless you really care about them and really love them and have a feeling for them. So I really enjoy them all. But yeah, my latest one, I guess, would be Disney Mirrorverse, Pure of Heart, which is based on the Disney Mirrorverse mobile game. And it's kind of cool if you haven't heard of it. Basically, you take all of the Disney characters you love, and they kind of become like D&D characters where they all have weapons and are fighting together. So it's not like, the Little Mermaid can only hang out with Ursula. The Little Mermaid is hanging out with all the other characters. So my book has Snow White with a giant axe hanging out with Tiana and Rapunzel and Hades and Stitch and Sully. And they're all together having an adventure. And again, Snow White, big axe. So it's a completely different world, but they sound like the characters you love. So if you love all of these worlds and would like to see these characters interact, it was so much fun. Writing Hades is just a treat.
What does it mean to you to get to be part of these massive fandoms at this level?
It's just so exciting. I'm a big nerd. I'm a big geek. I have been this way my whole life. I was a weird kid who got bullied for it, and now I get paid for it and I get to be a part of it. So it's so cool. You walk into Star Wars Celebration and you're just like, this many people love the thing I love, and it's so cool to get to write in them and also to meet the other writers who write the same things. It's this shared love of you get to be a part of the thing you love, and you get to use your imagination, and then you get to meet the fans. I am just giddy all the time about it.
It's like the best when you get to be part of something that you love so
Yes.
much. And you can tell when someone cares versus when they don't. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
But you have so many books this year. So your next release, you just put out 2 in
4
July.
books this year.
4 books. So you put out 2 in July.
Yep.
And you've got 1 in September, 1 in October. The
Yep.
September release is Midnight at the Houdini,
Yep.
which I just started reading. So introduce us to what's going on in this one.
Sure. So Midnight at the Houdini is a sweet YA romance that's inspired by Sleep No More, which is an immersive theater project in New York that I love. And it's also inspired by Shakespeare The Tempest. But it is about a very kind of type A, focused, organized teen girl named Anna who lives in Las Vegas. And her father is a successful hotelier who owns hotels. And she ends up, because of a tornado, in her father's least favorite hotel, and when she goes inside, suddenly it is a very magical place. And you learn that the Houdini is just, it's the kind of place that would have ensorcelled me as a kid. Brass key rings and checkered floors. It's very Alice in Wonderland. Strange things happen. It's magic themed. So rabbits wander the hallways, and there's always a ball going on in the ballroom, and there's magic tricks happening in secret places. So basically during the pandemic, I was like, I just need to do something fun. And I wrote this book that's just kind of all fun. And then in this magical hotel, she meets a magical boy named Max, who has lived there his whole life. And then she finds out, oh, by the way, at midnight, you're going to turn into a ghost and live here forever. And so she has to figure out a way, with Max's help, to escape the hotel.
This first chapter really sucks you in on an emotional level. Anna is kind of othered at a birthday party.
All my books are about people who start out othered. It's it's the theme.
I mean, it tracks when you're in fandom like this. But so it's a feeling that so many people can like identify with. What was it like for you processing that emotion through writing?
A lot of my books are me processing whatever I'm working through at the time. To see the violence for more information on that. I have a book called The Violence, not just see violence in general. But yeah, it was kind of fun because, you know, with any book you get kind of the idea seed for the book and you have to start feeling it around. And so I started with The Magical Hotel and had to think of a main character who would be uniquely challenged by this. Someone like me who's, you know, kind of a creative ADHD flibberty-gibbet who's very easily distracted, like I would just get lost there and be like, oh, well, I'm a ghost, cool, whatever. So I had to find someone who was very kind of type A, tightly wound, organized. I know the opposite of me. I know what I'm doing with my life. I know what I'm doing to get there. I'm in charge all the time. I have, you know, a big old binder with a calendar in it, which is not me. But that's the kind of person that would be uniquely challenged by the hotel. So that's where Anna came from, was trying to figure out who would get there and be like, oh, no, not a magical hotel.
Is it a challenge for you to put yourself in a headspace of someone who is so different from you?
I hope not. I mean, I can imagine what that would be like because I think when you have ADHD, you learn to mask and you learn that if you are not by nature an organized person, the only way to deal with that is to come up with a system. That's what I say to my therapist all the time. I'm like, I've got a system for that. So like you have the system. So I know what it's like to be a person who has systems in place, but they're not put in place because I enjoy the system. They're put in place because I don't like getting the phone call telling me that I've got the day wrong and I'm 30 minutes late.
I've had the day wrong multiple times on this trip.
I have so many phone alarms.
The ADHD struggle is so real.
And it drives my daughter crazy because my kids are neurodivergent too. And we all have synesthesia and we all have different colors and we like and hate different numbers. So I hate the number 5. And so all of my phone alarms end in a 2 or a 4. But my daughter loves the number 5 and all of her phone alarms end on 5. So like we're like, why did your phone just go off? Like it's 4:45. And she's like, when is your going off? And I'm like, 4:52, like a person who's not a psychopath. There's a lot of that happening in my home.
That is so much fun, though. Like, to debate over the times of alarm.
Oh, if you want to get somebody mad at my family, well, I can be like, 7's green. And they're like, oh, absolutely not.
I love this so much. Now I want to do this, just for the fun.
Well, I didn't know that this existed when I was a kid, and I got in big trouble in kindergarten because there was a poster on the wall where you do a letter every week, and the letter was W, and the W was yellow. And I said, W isn't yellow. And she was like, this is the color yellow and the letter W. And I was like, yeah, no, I can read. W isn't yellow. W is pink. And she was like, no, this W is yellow. And I'm like, no. And so I got like a letter home from school that I was rude and aggressive. And not until I was in high school was like, oh, not everyone sees letters and colors with numbers and that they have feelings, where I'm like, you can't trust 5, but 4 is a good guy.
That's so strange, though. Like, I don't know that I've ever heard of this either.
Yeah, it's called synesthesia. Where some people can see music, so it's when your senses cross over. But my whole life, colors have been associated with letters and numbers, and they're not what I would choose. Like, if somebody gave me a set of watercolors and was like, tell me what you think 2 should be, this is not the color I would choose. I'm just stuck with them.
Have you ever thought about writing a character with it?
I have, but it almost feels kind of self-indulgent, I guess. Like, I guess I've explored, ADHD, I've explored autism, I've explored trauma and that sort of thing. So I could see a character having it as kind of like you're just a character that happens to have that, who's having an adventure, but it just doesn't really play well into life. It's not like I can memorize pi through colors. It's just this annoying thing cool but annoying thing that happens in my head. I can't add numbers because the colors don't match. Like, it's not like red plus blue makes purple. It doesn't work.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So with the neurodivergency, and you have so many books, how do you approach your writing process to keep yourself on task?
When I'm first drafting, I'm very focused on the first draft. I liken it to when you pull the laundry out of the dryer and you're carrying the hot clothes in your arms and you have to carry it to the couch. And like, if you drop a sock, whatever, you'll get it later, because if you stop, you're going to drop everything. So first draft is me carrying the hot laundry, and I have it all in my head, and it's super fast and furious. I write like 3,000 words a day. I write most of my books in a month and a half. Which is, if you want to write a Star Wars book, you have to be able to write 120,000 words in about 40 days. You call it a crash schedule, but it's a very specific skill. So I first draft super fast, and then I typically have a little notebook by my computer where I work that has the list of what I have to do and the order that it has to be done. And so then I can just look and I can see the date and be like, okay, well, this is due August 15th. Okay, so I'm going to do that first. Oh, but they need this interview and that's due Tuesday. Okay, we'll do that first. And then I cross things out. It's extremely complicated in the fact that I write things down and cross them out.
I understand this, though. Like, you were speaking my language.
But I also have an agent. So sometimes I'll be like, can you tell me what's due next? And then she'll go look, because she's a lot more organized than I am.
God bless those people that keep
That
all
do
the
that do
crazies.
the numbers.
Yes, I cannot keep myself on task. So you said you write 3,000 words a day.
Yeah.
What does a typical day look like for you trying to get that word count?
The words are the easy part. The being the parent of 2 neurodivergent teenagers and having a family life is the challenging part. So it's like I wake up and I get people to school and I make lunches and I feed the cats and I take out the dog and do all that work. I'm an Olympic lifter, so I usually go to the gym for an hour and a half, and then I do. You do? Yeah. If you don't like exercise and you like to keep your brain occupied, please try Olympic lifting, because it's awesome and your bones are going to break if you don't do it. And that's how like you stay sane is the exercise. Yes, and then I do all of my on the way home from the gym, I do all of my errands, and then I come home and I usually have to like feed children and do other things. And then sometime between like 2 and 8, I end up sitting in a comfortable place with a heating pad on my back, typing furiously. And when people come talk to me, I just like glare at them, I'm writing, like a little goblin. And I drink my kombucha and I have my little lunch. And, that's anytime I can get the writing in. But when I'm doing that, I'm so focused. It's definitely not like a friendly, oh boy, she looks emotionally available. It looks like I am, Furiosa driving across the desert and you just don't want to get in the way. So that's how, and then at night we watch, Justified in What We Do in the Shadows and go to sleep.
You've written 20 plus books, right?
I think 26 at this point,
Yeah,
but I don't.
it's a lot.
Again, numbers not my jam.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
You've written a lot of books. What do you know now about writing that you wish you would have known when you first started?
For me, the writing part is fun. It's my access to flow. It's tapping into the creativity and the fun. It's like dancing. Like, I love writing and I just get really excited about it. I don't fall into that whole like, oh, this is drudgery and I've got to pull the words out. I'm like, oh my God, I get to write again. Which is awesome. It's like my longest running hyperfixation. I'm so into it. So that part isn't hard. The problem with writing is that so much of it is out of my hands. So, it's like I write so many books, but the publishers put non-competes in my contract saying, so like, well, if you sell us an adult series, you can't sell adult series to other people. So then I wrote YA, and they're like, okay, well, if you sell us YA, you can't sell YA to the other people. So it gets to where if I don't write the intellectual property work, I have spaces of time where I'm not writing, and nobody wants that. It's not safe. So, I can't control the marketing. I can't control if a book sells well. I don't get a ton of control over the cover. I don't get control of if I'm on the main table at Barnes & Noble. So that's the hardest part is when you write, you write the best book that you can, you work with the best team that you can, you put everything in that you can, and it can be a great book that gets great reviews, that people love, and it still might not be considered successful. And then that doesn't fall on your publisher, that falls on you. Is I think the hardest part of being a traditionally published author. I understand that if you go self-published or indie published, you have more control over this, but I don't want to do all that work. Because outside of writing, I'm very lazy.
Do you have to do, well, I mean, all authors have to do a lot of the marketing and stuff on their own these days. How do you balance the writing with the marketing and the appearances and all of that and still get all of it done?
I mean, there's not a ton, I guess, a writer can do these days. Like, the social media is so disparate and distracted. I mean, I used to see pretty good return on investment on Twitter, and now that's just kind of, there's not a lot there. So I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram, but it just doesn't go as far. Right now what we're hearing is that no one is entirely certain how to sell books. So like I do what I can without trying to bore people, but I'm also, I'm not good at faking things. So like my Instagram is just me living my life. I'm not like, oh, I've got to do the grid and I've got to do this. I'm just like, oh my God, you guys look at this turtle. So it's kind of what you see is what you get. And I've kind of come to grips with, I'd rather be firmly mid-list and really having fun than have to spend that much time looking at the SEO of Facebook ads. I'm sure there are some skills there I could fix, but I just really like writing. And so that's what I want to do. And then hopefully everything else will fall into place eventually.
I feel like writers appreciate the authenticity of getting to see the life, not just the buy my book, buy my book, buy my book.
Yeah, that gets a little pretty tiring, which I'm sorry, you guys. The Star Wars book has been pretty much my feed for a while now, but I try to break it up with frogs, my daughter's cakes. Like, we try to get some stuff in there.
One of the things that's on your website is resources for writers. What made you decide to put that all together to kind of help other people get their foot in the door in publishing?
Like I said, I wrote my first book at 31. When my son stopped sleeping, my brain broke, and I started hallucinating, and I went to my husband, and I was like, are you hearing the rats in the walls, or is that just me? Because they're talking. And he was like, you need sleep. If you're going to get this sleep schedule, he's like, but you need a hobby. Like, you need to do something creative, because I was a visual artist. But once you have babies, paint is pretty much poison. So he was like, you have to do something creative or you're going to go crazy. Do a creative thing. And I was like, I can't. And he was like, we should write a book. And my brain was so fractured that instead of telling him all the reasons I couldn't, I tried, I didn't know how. I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll try that. If you'll want to take the kids to the playground, I'll try to write a book. And so he got me writing, and I started writing. And back then, this was like 2010, I guess, Twitter was... It was just like hanging out at a water cooler with people. So I started following agents and editors and, these people in the writing world that wanted to help. And I learned a ton. And there were a bunch of blogs back then. And like everything that I learned about traditional publishing was pretty much online from these generous souls. I also made a lot of friends there, where you would meet one person. They'd say, you need to meet my friend here. And come to this con and meet this person. And I developed this network of friends like I'd never had in my whole life before. And, as I kind of found enough success to feel like maybe I could offer help, I always wanted to be that same paying it forward attitude. So like if someone has an ungoogleable publishing question on Twitter, I'll usually answer it. Like you say to me, how do I get published? I'll be like, well, first of all, do your research. I answered this. But there's lots of questions out there. You're like, I don't know how to Google for this, and you don't get anything except for WebMD when you Google anything these days. But I want to be there to help people because people helped me, and because so much of publishing feels very mysterious and gatekeepy, and it's a little bit, but on the whole, most people in publishing, we all love books. We all want to read great books, and we all want other books to succeed. So I want that for other people too, because like it feels great to find this thing that you love and to be able to be with other writers and people with that fellow feeling and other people who love books.
What does the writer community mean to you?
They're my best friends. I was a lonely, weird kid, and books were my friends because I didn't understand people. So it was like, do you want to go to recess? No, I want to sit in the corner of this air-conditioned room and read Watership Down. Leave me alone. So books were my refuge and my friends, and I understood them. And I didn't really understand people. And I found some people in drama in high school, and I had like some buddies. College was I was depressed the whole time. I had a really bad time. I found my husband. That's kind of all I got. And then, once I was married, I had so much trouble making friends. Like, it was so challenging. I got catfished by a Mary Kay seller, and I thought she wanted to be my friend, and she invited me to her house to sell me Mary Kay. And so that's like how my history trying to find friends was. And I found writing, and I was like, these are the weirdos. Like, these are all the weirdos like me, and we're all awkward, and we're just really excited, and we're really happy. So, like, these are my best friends. And not only that, but like my best Florida friend, Kathy, like she came to a book signing in Tampa, and then we saw each other 2 or 3 times in the local Target until we had to talk, because when 2 people wearing the same Star Wars shirt pass 3 times in Target, you have to be like, okay, we have to be friends now. So she's a book friend too. So, they bring you together, you find your people, and there's so much commiseration because, writing is a thing that you do at home quietly alone in the dark behind your keyboard. And then you get to a con around your people and you go to the bar and you're actually talking about what you're going through and the trials and tribulations, and you don't feel so alone. So like the writing community means just everything to me. I mean, my husband too, but the writing community. My children, writing community.
It's so precious.
Cupcakes, turtles.
All of it. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Can I mention my...
Yes, your October book.
Yeah. So I have a horror novella out in October. It's called Bloom, and it's my 16-year-old daughter she's so cool. She's 1,000 times cooler than I've ever been. But she watched Hannibal because she has good taste. And she was like, why are all the hot serial killers dudes? And I was like, I can fix that for you. So I wrote this book that's like if Hannibal was girls' cottagecore. So it's, and it was so much fun, and it's got the coolest cover because you never know what your book cover is going to be. So I made what I wanted the cover to be because I have an art degree that I never used. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if this was the cover? Hint, hint. And so they based it on that. So I was like, this is the cover the world needs. But yeah, it's my lady serial killer kissin' fun book, and it's dedicated to my daughter because it was so much fun and I love it. Bloom.
And the last question we always ask is, since this is literary hype, what books are you hyped about right now?
I have been so head down in deadlines. I've written.
I wonder why.
10,000 words of a book here at this con. I will go back to my room tonight and write 2,000 more words. So, my friend Chuck has Black Rivered Orchard is out pretty soon. I really enjoy Chuck Wendig's horror books. He had. See, I know all the code words for his books that we've called them over the years, but I'm like, what's the actual, this is the Evil Apple book, I'm pretty sure. But he had, the Book of Accidents was really good. I'm really enjoying horror right now, so I'm enjoying, Camino Iglesias, Eric LaRocca, Christy DeMeester, Rachel Harrison. I learned one of her books recently that was great. The horror, there's this little horror boom that I'm really enjoying, and especially there's a lot of women in horror and kind of weird horror, so I'm probably most excited about horror right now. Oh God, Kirsten, I'm sorry, it's Sunday on con, forgive me. Kirsten White's Mr. Magic is coming out soon as a follow-up to her book Hyde. Hyde was about an abandoned amusement park, which is one of my favorite topics, and then Mr. Magic is about a kids TV show with a mascot that everybody remembers but no one can find. Creepy stuff. All here for the creepy stuff.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for this. It's been super fun.
If you're interested in checking out Delilah's books, the links to get a hold of those are down below, as well as where to find her on social media so you can hang out and see what she's up to. And while you're that side of the video, don't forget to click on that like button, subscribe to the channel. It really does help things out, and share it with your friends. You never know, they might really love to hear what Delilah is talking about. Maybe they're a big Star Wars fan. Share this video with them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.